When my name was called for the Purple Heart ceremony, I expected pride, maybe even relief. But instead, I felt something completely different. A silence that didn't belong to the room. And then my sister's voice cut through it. Soft, sharp, and loud enough for everyone to hear. Guess they give those medals to anyone who survives now. A few people laughed. Not strangers. My own family. That laugh didn't just hit me, it stayed inside me. Like a wound that refused to close. I stood there frozen, while Admiral Harris stepped forward and pinned the medal on my chest. His hands were steady. Mine were not. And in that moment, I understood something I was never prepared for. The people who were supposed to be proud of me were not. It wasn't just disappointment. It felt like something deeper. Like they were hiding something behind their eyes. My name is Lisa Baker. And that was the day I learned the worst injuries don't bleed. The summer air at Charleston Navy Yard felt heavy. Salt in the wind. Heat pressing against the skin. The kind of heat that makes even standing still feel like effort. My uniform felt heavier than usual. The polished brass reflected sunlight so sharply it almost hurt to look at. But I didn't move. I stood in formation, straight and controlled. At least on the outside. Inside, everything was different. My heartbeat refused to stay calm. It kept breaking rhythm. Not from fear of the ceremony, but from something sitting in the third row. Left side. My family. I could feel them without even turning my head. My father sat stiff, arms crossed tightly. His jaw locked in that familiar way, like he was holding back words he didn't want to say out loud. My mother sat beside him, smiling politely. But it wasn't real. It never reached her eyes. Then there was Derek, leaning slightly toward April. Her phone was already in her hand, the red recording light blinking softly. Like this wasn't a ceremony. It was content. Something to post later. Something to turn into attention. They whispered. They smiled. They laughed quietly. And I realized something painful. To them, this moment wasn't sacred. It was entertainment. When I joined the Navy, I believed something simple. That surviving would make me worthy in their eyes. That scars would prove courage. That medals would finally turn disappointment into pride. But I was wrong. Standing there, I could feel it clearly now. It wasn't pride in their eyes. It was something colder. Almost like judgment. Like they were asking without words. Why her, and not us? The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. My name was spoken clearly. Lisa Baker. And for a fraction of a second, everything stopped. Even the air felt still. Then I heard it again. April's voice. Light. Almost amused. A few heads turned. Even Admiral Harris paused slightly. His eyes shifted toward my family, then back to me. But I felt it. Something was already wrong. I walked forward. Step by step. The applause felt distant. Like it belonged to someone else's life. My fingers brushed the metal. Cold metal. Heavy. Real. But my mind wasn't there. It was still back in that row. With them. With the silence that followed their laughter. And something deeper than embarrassment started forming inside me. A question I couldn't ignore anymore. What are they hiding? Because this wasn't just disrespect. It felt practiced. Like they had already decided something about me long before I stood here. After the ceremony, I didn't celebrate. I didn't stay. I didn't smile for photos. I left. And as I walked away, one thought stayed with me. This medal wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning of something I didn't understand yet. And something inside my family that was about to break wide open. 3 days after the ceremony, I returned to Mount Pleasant. The road back felt longer than I remembered. Not because of distance, but because of everything I was carrying inside me. The medal was still with me, but it no longer felt like pride. It felt like weight, like something unfinished. The town hadn't changed, but I had. My family home stood at Liberty Lane, a name that always sounded too hopeful for a place that never felt free. The paint on the house was peeling again. The porch would look tired, like it had been waiting too long for repair that never came. And the old sign near the gate still stood. A family built on honor. I stared at it for a moment, and for the first time, it didn't feel like truth. It felt like a cover, like something people say when they don't want anyone to ask questions. Inside, the house smelled the same. Dust, old wood, and memories that didn't feel warm anymore. I walked slowly through the hallway, every step bringing back something I didn't ask for. Laughter that now felt fake. Arguments I never understood. Silences that were too long to be normal. And then I heard it. My father's voice in my memory. Sharp. Final. No daughter of mine will wear navy blues. That day came back to me like it was happening again. The table. His fist hitting it. the sound echoing in a way that stayed in my bones for years. My mother's voice followed next. Soft, careful, but just as firm in its own way. Family comes first, Lisa. Always. Back then I believed her. I thought it was love. Now I understood something different. Sometimes, family first really means truth last. Upstairs, I went through old drawers. Not looking for anything in particular. Just trying to understand what I had never been told. And that's when I found it. An envelope. Old. Faded. Stamped with a seal I didn't expect to see here. Department of Naval Intelligence. My hands paused before opening it. Something inside me already knew this wasn't normal. Inside was a single document. Faded ink. But still readable. Ongoing observation authorized civilian access to classified medical convoy data. Baker contact. My breath slowed. Baker contact. My name. Or something tied to it. I read it again. And again. Until the words stopped feeling like text. And started feeling like warning. No one in this house worked with naval intelligence. Except me. So why was my name here? And more importantly, who else was involved? Before I could think further, my phone vibrated. A message. From Admiral Harris. Lieutenant Baker. We need to talk. Privately. No explanation. No context. Just urgency. And something unspoken behind it. Danger. That night I didn't sleep. The house felt different. Too quiet. Too aware. I sat in my father's old office. The smell of metal tools and dust filled the air. Everything inside looked frozen in time. Awards. Certificates. Old photographs. A life carefully displayed like proof of integrity. But something felt off. Like a story missing pages. I opened the bottom drawer. It was stuck. I pulled harder. It gave way suddenly. Inside was a bank slip. Payment received. Maritime Research Group. $7,500. Signed. R.B. Baker. My father. My hand went cold. Because this wasn't just money. This was something hidden. Something repeated. Something intentional. My phone buzzed again. This time Ethan Cole. My old teammate. I sent him the photo of the slip. His reply came after a long pause. Lisa. That company is under investigation. My stomach tightened. He sent another message. They were linked to convoy leaks in Yemen. Then a file arrived. Contractors under suspicion. Maritime Research Group highlighted. My eyes scanned faster. Medical convoy routes. Foreign contractors. Data leaks. Everything connected in ways I didn't want to believe. My phone slipped from my hand. It hit the floor with a sharp sound. But I barely heard it. Because in my mind, something louder broke. Not glass. Not silence. Trust. Outside, waves hit the dock. Slow. Heavy. Like they were repeating something I didn't want to hear. On the desk, a photo sat half-tilted. Me in uniform. Graduation day. My father's hand on my shoulder. Smiling. Or pretending to. And for the first time, I asked myself something I was never ready to ask. Was that pride? Or control? After I left my parents' house, I didn't go back for 3 days. Not because I was running away, but because I needed to understand what I had just uncovered. Every name, every file, every signature kept repeating in my head like a loop that refused to stop. My phone stayed silent most of the time. Until a message appeared. April. Family dinner. Dad insists. Don't make it awkward. I stared at it for a long moment. I didn't want to go. But something inside me needed answers in person. Not files. Not messages. Faces. Real reactions. The restaurant was near the harbor. Soft lights. Calm water outside. The kind of place that tries too hard to look peaceful. My family was already there when I arrived. Smiling. Talking. Acting normal. Like nothing was wrong. Like nothing had ever been wrong. But I could feel it immediately. Something was different now. And they knew it too. My father leaned back in his chair. His voice calm but sharp underneath. So, Lieutenant, what now? Hero of the family? Derek smirked slightly. Must pay better than shipyard work, right? A few quiet laughs followed. Not loud. Not confident. More like nervous habits. Like they were testing how far they could push before something broke. I didn't respond immediately. I just watched them. Carefully. And for the first time, I didn't feel like their daughter. I felt like something they couldn't control anymore. Halfway through dinner, my phone vibrated. A message from Admiral Harris. We found something. Don't alert them. Meet me after dinner. My grip tightened. My eyes slowly lifted across the table. April was recording again. A fake smile on her face. Captioning something like family night. It almost made me laugh. Almost. Because the truth sitting between us was heavier than any performance she could post. After dinner, I went straight to the base. Admiral Harris was already waiting. No greetings. No small talk. Just a folder on the desk. He slid it toward me. Inside were bank records. Derek Baker. Multiple payments. All linked to Maritime Research Group. My throat tightened. This overlaps with your convoy timeline in Yemen, he said quietly. My voice barely came out. You're saying my brother? He didn't interrupt. He didn't need to. Because the silence already answered it. Then another page. My father's name. A second signature. A report confirmation tied to classified convoy data. My hands went cold. It wasn't just one person. It was coordinated. Family signatures on something that cost lives. And suddenly, everything I believed about loyalty cracked open. I left the base in silence. Drove across Ravenel Bridge. City lights reflected below like broken glass on water. For a moment, I didn't feel like I was moving forward. I felt like I was falling through something I couldn't stop. Because the question was no longer what happened. It was, how long had this been happening? The next day, I went back to the restaurant. Another family dinner. Another performance. But this time, I wasn't the same person who had sat there before. I was watching them differently. Listening differently. Seeing the gaps between their words. The lies hidden inside normal conversations. And then it happened. A message arrived mid-dinner. Unknown number. Stop digging. Some things are not meant to be known. My eyes froze. Slowly, I looked outside. A black vehicle. Parked across the street. Engine running. Watching. Not random. Not accidental. Intentional. That night, Admiral Harris called again. His voice was lower this time. Lieutenant Baker, this is going federal. Then a pause. And you need to prepare for what comes next. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. The purple heart on my chest caught the faint light. But it didn't feel like a medal anymore. It felt like a warning. Because now the war wasn't overseas. It was here. At home. Inside my own name. Inside my own blood. And for the first time, I stopped asking if I was ready. Because readiness didn't matter anymore. Truth had already started moving. And it wasn't going to stop for anyone.